Hello everyone. Today I'm making a really simple bread using simple tools so anyone can learn how to make bread for themselves without buying it in a store. So this is an easy, healthy, simple alternative. The first step, I have 3 cups of this is very warm water. And I'm going to add, you can add half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of any kind of sweetener you like. I'm just going to show you how to use sugar. You can add, that was half a cup. You can add up to, like I said, 3/4 of a cup of sugar if you want. And we're just going to mix the 2 of them together and let these sit until the water itself comes down to between 105 and 120 degrees because we do not want to kill the yeast that we're going to put in it. So we're just going to let the water and the sugar sit for a few minutes and come down to a reasonable temperature not to kill our yeast. We'll be back. Alright, now that the water's between 105 and 120 degrees, we are going to add the yeast. We're going to add 1.5 tablespoons. Now, you can add 1 package of yeast, and you buy them in little individual packets, and they come in 3 or 4 packs. You can use 1 whole pack and sprinkle it over the top, or you can do what I do, and I buy a giant square 1-pound thing of yeast and I put it in a jar and I freeze it so it doesn't become activated. Alright, now a big trick to this is you don't want to just dump it in and have it sink to the bottom. You want to sprinkle it on the top. Now most people just let it be and for like a minute or 2, and then they start making up their bread. Now I like it when we let it sit a little bit longer and let it become slightly sourdough starter. So we're going to let this sit here for about 20 minutes until it puffs up. You'll see what it looks like when I bring you back. We'll be back. Alright, it's been 20 minutes, and as you can see, my yeast has bubbled up and gotten all kinds of lively. Now some people just do it right away and only let it sit for a few minutes, but we like to let it sit for a little while and start to get semi-sourdough. It's also better for your tummy that way. Alright, so we're going to do this using no fancy equipment, no kneading doughs. I have a Danish Dough Whisk, which you can get at Walmart for under 10 bucks. These are excellent. But I'm going to show you how to do it with just a fork. You want to make sure you have a big, thick, sturdy fork and not a little tiny one. Alright. We're going to want 6 cups of flour to start out with. Generally you want 6 to 8 cups for this recipe. It all depends upon the amount of flour you use. All depends upon how moist it is in the air, how hot out it is. So I'm going to walk you through this step by step so you can see. Alright, next we're going to add a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of salt. We want to make sure we mix all that in to the flour before we add our yeast, because the salt can kill the yeast. So we want to get that salt mixed in there good. And then we want half a cup of oil. Now in my house I use hemp seed oil. I have a child that suffers and is on the autism scale, under the autism spectrum, and we have discovered that having hemp seed oil in his diet makes a huge difference. We do not like the idea of medicating our child, so we have found other natural alternatives. You can use any kind of oil you want, but I use hemp seed oil, and you want a half a cup. And we're going to add our yeast and water mixture. Get it all mixed in together. Alright, now we're going to start adding more flour until we get it to the right consistency. And we want to add about a half a cup, quarter cup to a half a cup each time. Woo! Big old mess. And it looks like that might actually be getting close to what we need. You want to make sure you stir it and get it completely incorporated in between each mixing and adding of flour to make sure that it mixes up properly. Look at that. See, as you get the flour mixed in, it'll go from pulling away from the sides of the bowl to starting to stick to the sides of the bowl again. So that means we got to add more flour. You can, at this point, turn it out onto a floured surface and start kneading in more flour, but I'm going to get as much of this mixed in as possible before we do that. See how we've got a big, nice, what looks like clump of actual dough now? This is the bowl we're going to let it rise in. Back here. So let's just move all this stuff out of my way so I can knead my bread dough. Oh, look at that. A piece of bread dough fell out. Throw that away because it's not incorporated. Move my measuring cup aside. Alright. Flour all over the surface we're going to knead on. Dump our bread dough out. Now you want to make sure that when you go to start doing this part of it, you've got plenty of flour on your hands, plenty of flour on the surface, and plenty of flour to knead in. Now this is where a lot of people have problems. My dad taught me a wonderful trick when I was a kid. Take the top down, push it in, quarter turn, top down, fold it in half, push it in, quarter turn. As you can see, it's starting to get sticky. Spread it around, grab a little bit more flour. And you can feel, and that's where it's at right now, you can feel when it becomes bread dough, it becomes nice and squishy and spongy, and it's not so sticky. Biggest trick that it's ready is when you push on it. See how it puffs back? So then what we're going to do, we're going to take our pan. Now you can just put a little bit of oil in the bowl if you want, but I use non-GMO, project verified cooking spray. I'm just going to spray the inside of it so it doesn't stick. Tuck it in nicely. Drop it in the bowl. And set a bread towel on top of it. Set it off to the side. We're going to put a timer on and we're going to let it rise for 45 minutes. It will almost double in the rising, and then we'll be back to do the next step. Alright, here we go. Now, it's been rising for 45 minutes and it's doubled. A lot of people say, punch it down. No need to. All you gotta do is turn it over, and as you can see, it deflates on its own. Now, most of the time I would pull out my rolling pin and start rolling this out, but simple bread, basic tools. So I'm just going to show you how they did it in the old days. There we go. See? Simple, easy. Now, I have a glass bread pan. You can also use, you can just use a tin pan. I'll use that. Alright, what we have here. Now, again, simple bread, basic tools. So instead of me pulling out my bread cutter, which a lot of people don't have, I'm just going to grab a knife and cut it. Now, you can make it sweet bread by then taking soft butter and spreading it all over it and putting cinnamon sugar on it and then rolling it up, and you can have a sweet bread, or cutting it into little pieces after you've rolled it up and make cinnamon rolls. But we're just making bread to eat like sandwiches. Now that we've got it in a cylinder like this, in order to make the nice ends on your bread, we're just going to want to tuck under. Pull it up, tuck under. You see that? Here. Oil in here. You can either put regular oil, or again, I'm using that non-stick spray. See? Beautiful. Perfect. Put it in there and we're going to let it rise. Let me do this other one. And when you grab it, it's going to start to elongate, which is perfect for making it go into a longer bread pan. Tuck and fold the edges under. Drop it in. Now, if this was a regular tin pan, I'd say to spray it, a regular aluminum pan, but this is actually a special stainless steel one, so I'll be putting a lid on it, but I'm just showing you as an example. And then this last one here, again, small, roll it up. We could put it in another small glass tin, but I have these special little pans for my kids. My son loves little individual breads. Pull on the ends so that they come up and tuck under, and you don't have this. See, pull up, tuck under, throw it in there. Line them up next to each other. Let them sit on the counter with our bread towel for an hour this time. And they'll get really big and really puffy and really full. And then, when they've risen, we'll throw them in the oven. We'll be back. It's been an hour. Our bread is all nice and poofy and ready to go into the oven. You can brush it with melted butter. You can do an egg wash, which is egg whites and a little bit of water mixed together, and you could brush it on. I just use this cooking spray again. Put it in the oven on 350 for 30 to 35 minutes. This one down here, little tiny one, won't take nearly that much time. Now, just a little trick that I like to do, not on my son's because my son doesn't like it, but on ours I do just a little tiny sprinkle of the salt on the top of it. And that's it. We'll put it in the oven and we'll be back. Alright, there's all three of them out of the oven. I just pulled these two out. We want to let them cool for about 10 to 15 minutes and then pull them out of the pan so that they don't get too hot and keep cooking and get hard in the pan. You want to pull it out like this, and then if you're unsure whether or not it's done, that hollow sound, you'll also hear it on fresh baked out of the oven bread. So we'll let these cool for 10 to 15 minutes and we'll pull them out of the pan, and then you let them cool completely before you slice into them, otherwise you ruin the crumb. We'll be back. Hello guys. Well, here it is. It's been 6 hours and they have completely cooled. I have them in, you can get these at Walmart. They're like $1.99 for 100 of them. They're the twist tie bread bags. Making sure that you put them in a bag helps keep your bread nice and soft. Look how beautiful and gorgeous that is. And watch how nicely this is going to slice for you. Ooh. See if I can do this so you can see it. Oh yeah. Look at the beauty of that. Oh, so tasty. Thank you for coming along on this adventure, and I hope you learned just how easy it is to bake your own bread at home without having all those fancy tools and fancy equipment and fancy mixers. I mean, they didn't have KitchenAids 150 years ago. Alright, thank you for coming along, and if you like this video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And I can't wait to see you in my next video. And remember everyone, stay positive. Bye.